Warming up. Warming up. No, okay, that's fine.
What?
No, it was the wavelength colors that looked like it was live.
Oh.
I don't know why. We are manually resharing. So anyone who's seeing right now is seeing us manually reshare.
Very exciting. Very exciting. This whole tagging. Like, since it's still on a personal page, I tagged Toby in the Facebook post, so it becomes accessible to his friends, and then I will reshare to Twitter. Because that's what we do. One moment. It's like we started the show and it looks like we're working. After a whole day of work.
Okay. Hey, Black Swana. Welcome. We are officially starting in a few minutes. It's manually resharing, so please do help us get the stream out. Share, subscribe, like, and hi Noel, mabuhay.
No, you didn't use the umlaut because that could be mabuhay. Is the
I really think light has this effect of making your face feel more itchy. I don't know why.
I think it's you.
Switching to YouTube, as this is a naughty episode.
Oh yeah, I was about to say, did you get the chicken?
We have our clicker chicken. It's gonna be so hard to use this.
Yeah. Or is it we have to pick it up as we're gonna say something?
Well, yeah, I guess so. So officially, we're thinking of using this to censor anything that might be questionable to make sure that this is still a publicly safe video.
Yeah, we'll see. I mean, like, YouTube may have other opinions about this episode.
So, like, when you're talking about how, since this is all about positions, then when we're talking about how a guy and a guy can use their in very creative ways, then yeah, maybe our clicker chicken might be enough. Or not.
No, it's probably not. It's going to be very annoying. And once again, this is surprisingly a baby toy and not a dog toy. But then the first time we encountered a clicker was probably
dog training
in Pushing Daisies. Remember?
Yeah.
Oh, Pushing Daisies, so good.
Pushing Daisies. That's a show that should come back.
But if it's Pushing Daisies, that's only until Lee Pace touches it again. Oh, maybe that's it. Was Pushing Daisies really dead this whole time? And then Lee Pace touched it accidentally. Then it died for real.
Yeah, that makes.
Ah, wow. So early for one of these errors. So nice.
We're back. And yes, this connection problem seems to be consistently happening despite troubleshooting. So it's
well, Restream support ends at saying it's probably an internet thing. I'm like, oh, thanks, So get better internet. That's so easy.
9:11. I guess we can officially start.
Oh my gosh! What an ominous time to start. I'm so zonked out.
It's been a long week. Despite knowing we were doing this episode tonight, I still had a moment earlier when I was like, "Oh, it's Friday."
Yeah, and I had the monthly company game night, and then it's like, okay, but I have to facilitate the game night, so it's like it's still a bit of work, but it's okay. Such is life. I love this chicken though. So cute. Unless he's just, but he must be a chicken, right? Because he has a waddle thing.
So we've been having disconnections in every show. So yeah, it's gonna be tricky, and we'll just have to navigate around it.
The joys of streaming from the Philippines.
But I think we might as well start before
Okay.
we have a second disconnection before we start the show, which is embarrassingly weird.
Okay.
We'll be right back after this intro.
Oh yeah! Baduy Pride!
Hello, everyone. This is Toby.
And this is Rocky.
And if it's your first time here, welcome to Baduy Pride, a little space on the internet where we talk about anything we want.
This is completely unscripted and not entirely accurate, but at least it's honest. Join us as we talk about everything and anything random live.
And if it's not your first time here, thank you so much for joining us again. Yes, you heard ducks, but we have a chicken. And that's because this episode is all about positions. I don't know why that was my transition.
I don't know either. I thought you were hoping for a rhyme, but that didn't happen either.
But yes, it's a Friday night, and as we have been doing so for the entire month, we have been making sure we have Pride-inspired episodes for Baduy Pride every week. With this being possibly our last Pride-inspired episode for this month.
Although I guess it's weird to call this a truly Pride. I mean, we probably did definitely LGBT oriented episode. So we did one about Soji. We did one about discovering your sexuality. We did one about corporations and pride. And now we're talking about positions.
Well, that's because in many ways, part of the journey of discovering yourself is also struggling to figure out how things work. And again, for people like me who come from an era where literature and resources regarding was not easily accessible.
Take the chicken.
Was not easily accessible.
You cannot Miranda.
Then it was hard to to consider exploring without really knowing what you were doing. And in my time, it literally was looking at tabloids or worse, looking at academic books to try to figure out what sort of positions you can try.
Oh man, I mean, those encyclopedias are so hot, especially with the transparencies that show you layers of organs. That's that is as undressed as you can get, ladies and gentlemen. So yeah. Of course, for if there are any new viewers, I doubt it though at the moment based on the view count versus comments. But for those who are watching, we'd appreciate if you leave a comment so we know that you're there, especially if you're on the live stream. If you're watching later on, feel free to comment anyway. Just today, I was surprised. There were like 3 different comments on the episode about tea. Someone watched it and was leaving real-time comments as they were watching. It was fascinating. So yeah, Baduy Pride always has a bit of longevity beyond the live stream. If you don't catch it, you can always watch the recording and we'll still appreciate it.
So yeah, Jay mentions literature, and it is literature. There's a lot you can learn in stuff that's out there, and from comparing how it was in the past, where if you wanted, whether it's pornography or just information about sex, you had to go through paywalls or you had to go through exclusive sources. But now we have all these online resources because they're not necessarily just for pleasurable reasons. They're out there for information. They're out there for helping people find their way.
So many forums, groups. There are people who pontificate on Twitter and all these things.
And we're not just talking even about the actual actions of it itself, but we're even looking at how media and resources online have progressed to the point that even questions you might be embarrassed to ask, you'll probably find someone out there discussing it.
It's sort of like the Rule 34 of questions, but about sex. Okay. Briefly acknowledge, there's a lot of people tonight. So we have Black Swana, we have Noel, we have Ina, we have Kenny, we have Jay. So hello. Thanks all for joining. Okay. Gosh. So I think the first thing because once again, as usual, in our true Baduy Pride unscripted fashion, we've been so busy we haven't even talked about like an outline for today's episode. I
Mhm.
think the first thing that I will want to put out there is that positions are definitely preferences. Oh my gosh, hey Rehan, it are definitely preferences
Mhm.
in the sense that they are not directly tied to your identity. They do not necessarily even reflect
Mhm.
your personality. So that is why when we talked about Soji at the start of the month, positions or your preference for positions in the bedroom were not part of the discussion. And I
Mhm.
will, it seems like a no brainer for many, but I will stress it just to be
Mhm.
absolutely clear that uh, your preferences in bed have nothing to do with your identity,
Mhm.
and people need to stop equating it.
To even push that further, the verb does not define the noun. Um, People who have been celibate for years does not mean they've turned asexual.
Yeah,
Um,
or virginal.
People who are engaging in different forms of coitus for other reasons beyond preference, um, whether it's work related, whether it's research, whether it's
Whether it's
whatever.
work related. Okay.
The ultimate point there is that still does not mean you are now that.
Yeah.
It still just simply means you engaged in that.
Okay. So there's that.
Yes, Rehan, positions talaga ang pag-uusapan.
And I get annoyed and I get annoyed when people assign like identity traits to position discussions.
Mhm.
So like if you're like more aggressive, does that mean you're top?
Mhm.
Or if does that mean if you're more, effeminate, soft, submissive, however
Mhm.
you want to call it, does it mean you're bottom? And
Mhm.
it's totally unrelated. My favorite joke, not joke, but observation related to this is that we have a lot of friends who are drag queens, and drag queens are all about celebrating feminine energy and that
The
kind of
illusion
show.
of drag,
Yes.
the magic of how you transform yourself.
And many of them we know they're top. So so what does that say about your how you present your gender versus like what you do in the bedroom? Totally unrelated. um completely different.
So, of course, before we continue further in this episode, shark alert! We are again making sure it's clear to everyone that we are not experts. We are not um, professional researchers or people knowledgeable in the topic at the level or a degree we're in. You cannot expect mistakes, self
Nor is this
interpretations.
academic. No,
Yes.
this is just two guys talking on the internet.
Just making sure that disclaimers out there. There's stuff we are saying now that may make sense to us right now, but maybe we will find out we are wrong and we will accept correction and understanding of such things that need to be corrected. But we are speaking from a place of love, and we are not here to talk about this to alienate anyone.
Yeah, I mean, ultimately, but the Pride's about fun, celebration, and whatnot. And then I think the other thing that I wanted to stress, oh, you saw that, yeah, Black Swana says,
That's not enough. That
you
was so
both
good.
play games, so does that make you tabletops? Just table toppers. No. Okay. I think the other thing also is that, what's this? I find in my experience is that such preferences of position
Mhm.
are also not permanent. Like again, because it's not part of your identity, it doesn't mean that because
Mm-mm.
you have top once, you will always top, and you're
Yes.
only going to top. And if anything, um, people are bound to experiment, and you will discover things you like, or maybe things you didn't like before, you will like later on.
So you realize we'll have to define things
Yeah, I know.
because
So
there are
we want to
and there will always be the question of for some people, what do you mean by top?
Yes, that is true.
Because some might see
Because they mix in like attitudinal traits.
Yes.
Then
and then on the flip side, you also have people who go top, so
on the flip side,
siya yung on top,
yeah,
but what they're doing on top still can vary. So just because physically you're the one above the other person doesn't mean you're the top.
yeah,
So we'll have to define things.
yeah. So okay, then how do we go with the classics first?
I think the safest way to do that is to at least go from where we came from.
Okay.
For example, when I was going through my journey of realizing where I stood in the world, I had a very binary perspective of how these positions worked. I basically believe that there was the giver and the receiver, so
Ooh.
to speak.
Because baseball terms
And-
are totally rocking.
And that generally meant that the giver was always the male and the receiver was always the female.
That is true.
And-
That there's that early association of bringing it back to heteronormative or straight terms.
And
that
in
there's a
that-
guy and a girl.
In that perspective, the giver then encompasses everything from being the one who penetrates to being the one who inserts to being the one who basically takes charge.
Mm.
And then the receiver basically is supportive, is reactive,
Go team.
and simply envelopes whatever the giver gives. And gotta love how I'm keeping this PG. But then as I grew more aware of who I was and what I was into, I started to really quickly see that a lot of these initial understandings did not stand.
Mm.
Just because you were the giver, for example, doesn't mean you can't receive in a certain way as well. And, admittedly, when I was young, this blew my mind. This had that, what? I can do that too? In your case, how was the initial understanding? Did you grow up or did you begin with a specific interpretation of what the roles and positions were?
I don't think so. I think I was very because my mindset was on realizing I wasn't straight.
Mm-hmm.
Then it sort of like broke all the rules in my head, and then anything was fair game. And then so initially I wanted to try everything, like because for me I wanted to figure out what I enjoyed
Mm-hmm.
and then go from there. So and then like discussions of the quote unquote roles, came in later on. Like,
Mhm.
okay, then this is what they refer to as top, and this is what they refer to as bottom. So I think it's interesting though that a lot of the initial discussions are like, there was definitely this obsession with penetrative sex,
Mhm.
and which in itself is such a queer term to
Yes.
some degree because in straight couples, sex is sex.
Mhm.
I mean, like, although there are still definitions and levels of it, but then in general, it's gonna go a certain way that trends biological, so to speak. But then when it comes to when you're not straight, then there's like so many other things to try, and I guess because we are denied the biological imperative, then there's so many other ways to go, and so that kind of that was interesting to me because there was like that initial like when I was first chatting with people online and then they're asking like what my
Mhm.
position was, but then there was a point where I hadn't had sex yet or I had not tried certain things yet.
Yes.
And like I couldn't really say like if I was against it or for it. But then
Mm.
there was that pressure to like define what boxes you were in. I mean it's just the easy it's just how things start in the beginning where it's all about figuring out how to advertise yourself and you have to fit into those categories.
Part of what helped me in my journey was when I was of course going through realizing how sex worked for me.
Mm-mm.
As mentioned, I was still struggling with the fact I didn't really have role models. Um,
Sex romance.
so I did end up speaking to a lot of friends, and a lot of friends I knew were much more sexually active than I was.
Oh, Mitch is on YouTube also. Is everybody joining on YouTube for like PG reasons? Anyway, go on.
So, for example, so I had friends who were lesbians,
Okay.
and even that early, they were already saying, do whatever.
Hmm.
It doesn't matter if you're the one who receives or gives or what. Just as long as it's fun for you. It was actually only more prominent later on within the gay community, within um, homosexual men, that this sudden demand to have to define yourself by
Yeah.
preference comes in. And I found myself very confused about that because when I started doing stuff, like you, I was still under the try this, try that. Both go down on each other, both see if we can do it at the same time. No, we can't. We're not that limber. And, there's a lot of stuff like that.
Yes.
But then it's later on we're in, you meet people and they're like, oh, we're done na because you did me na. I don't do that. And there was that, parang, what? Wait, what?
Yeah, I think that
And-
was that's like number one disappointment when you encounter people who are like, "Oh, I don't do that," and like, really, because you made me do that,
Mhm.
and I don't see why turnabout is not fair play. And then that early on, like, define like, okay, then I guess these are things I have to confirm beforehand.
Mhm.
Like, do we all do the same things? Because if we don't, I don't want to either.
One of my first freakouts was when I finally tried going with someone I didn't know at all. Because the initial ones were with people I knew, right?
Oh.
Close circles. But then finally trying to branch out and hook up. I super freaked out because I didn't know if I had to pay.
Oh wow!
It was we went out.
wow!
It was a went out and then went to some place and then after we did it, there was that he's still here. Am I supposed to pay him or something? And it was that sort of freak out because I didn't know.
This is such a tahanan thought.
Well, that's because I didn't bring the person back to Tahanan.
Yeah, so okay. You have to at least pay the room. I did not have that experience because my first experiences were, based on our previous discussion,
Mhm.
were everyone outside of the places I normally hang
Mhm.
out. So I was totally doing it with strangers, and oh my god, such risky behavior. Like, I look back at it now as I approach my 40s and really just can only shake my head that you stupid boy. But thankfully, nothing terribly bad happened except a number of disappointing encounters.
So, going back to the main focus of the topic, when we talk about positions, one can approach this topic in reference to who is doing what at a certain point in time.
Okay.
And that is why literature such as the Kamasutra exists, wherein positions actually had names. The supposedly most common one, again, heteronormative, is the missionary position.
Mhm.
The most infamously famous one for a point in time was the dog style. I mean, the moment you
Was
talk,
that the most infamous? I thought it would be something like the Eiffel Tower or
See,
something.
but those are like, what's an Eiffel Tower? No one knows. It depends
That's
on
true.
How, but
At
then
least
when you say
Doggy Style is a little
everyone
bit more.
gets what that visual is,
Okay,
everyone understands what it looks like. I mean, you have people talk about helicopter and stuff, but you're not really sure exactly what they mean by helicopter compared to someone else. So,
No. The chicken is freaking out.
so I was one of the younger kids who did try to see if he could tap into a copy of the Kama Sutra
Wow.
to make sense of it.
Wow. Effort.
And I did not get the appeal. I remember looking at it. I remember looking at the pages and being fascinated with the illustrations, but I just found it exhausting.
It feels like a lot of work. And then it felt like you were trying to, it's like learning to dance
Mhm.
because there's like very specific positions and then like, wait, my hand is supposed to go where? And then I feel like it takes the fun out of it. And I say this as someone like, I also had the opportunity to peruse a copy of The Joy of Gay Sex because there was someone who tried to make that version. And
Oh, that one I've never seen.
it was an old copy, but then it was interesting. But then it was like, but again, it felt more like there's a lot of turning your head and like, really, you can do that. And so, I didn't super get obsessed about just positioning per se, but
I'm looking for a good list of names.
no, but
go on.
you're like on these, there's all these images on Toby's computer, and they have women. Okay, and then at the same time, was this? Then I cared less about trying to experiment with like supposed positions, but then was very very clear cut on what I liked and what I
Mhm.
didn't like, and then that sort of defined my role in bed, so to speak. And I will admit that over time that changed. So like I mean and from a so one I definitely enjoy penetrative sex.
Mhm.
That's not been a major problem. It's not always easy, but when it works, it works. It's not, please. But then at the same time, I did eventually try other stuff, and then I didn't content myself with just one role. So then now I just default to explaining that. I mean, when people do ask, it's like for the most part, I'm versatile in the
Mhm.
sense that I will try either stuff. I gravitate towards one side of the spectrum more than the other, but it doesn't mean I
Sorry,
won't.
jumping from image to image. I'm in yoga now for some reason.
Not that far away. Not that far away. Some of these yoga
Okay.
positions.
Maybe I shouldn't
Yeah.
search via images.
Yeah, I don't know
I was
why you're
hoping for
going
a chart with images so we can at least describe each one.
Okay.
But no. Um, so I was kind of hoping to at least try to see if the viewers are familiar with the names of some of the descriptions and listings.
Okay.
So, for example,
But then like the Kamasutra terms are very like yoga posy.
yeah. So we have, for example, the blossoming, realized by lowering the woman's head and raising her lower body up as the man is down there. So it's
It
still,
looks missionary.
but then the lower half of the woman is raised up. the
Oh,
whole
okay. It's missionary and you want to work out.
Yes.
It's like and then you want to like lift weights.
According to the text, this one has, oh my gosh, there's like cow, elephant,
Here, have a chicken.
doe.
And hello, Ace Brett Makawili Umsod. Wow, first time. Welcome to the stream.
We have the Queen of Heaven, or Indranika. So it is intended to ease the women parts, to open and expand its capacity.
Wow, but that looks like hell on the guy's legs.
It involves the man wrapping his thighs around the female partner and then forcibly opening things with his hands.
Oh. Oh.
Apparently, it was an ode to the wife of Indra, the king of heaven.
Okay.
Um,
See, what are these terms?
we have envelopment,
I think envelopment.
envelopment,
But
which is veshititaka.
Veshititaka.
So this one basically
It looks like they're flying.
has them paired together facing each other,
Standing up.
with the
Or
woman.
on the other side.
Note, with the woman crossing her legs while the thing is happening.
Oh.
This is to help tighten the experience.
Okay.
Um,
I've done that.
and then fun
Something
tidbit.
similar.
Midway through its section on cow elephant vaginas matched with hare penises. The blah 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 blah. So they use animals as the descriptor in terms of comparing sizes. There's the expanding. There's the so the expanding was basically it seems to be doing it on your side, but you keep one leg raised up.
It's like a dog forever peeing.
You have the broken flute,
Oh my god.
which is one on the back, the other one kneeling, one leg into the air, but the other leg is folded to the side.
Oh, I think I do that.
Yeah, it helps.
I do
helps.
that.
It allows accessibility for different heights. But then on a related note, there's the impalement, which is very
Ooh.
similar to the first.
That sounds violent.
But then has the addition of the palm pressed down against the midsection of the other one.
Okay, that I feel like this is extra work. I mean, I get it. I can see the potential, like how it might help.
But that's the thing about the Kamasutra, you see. There's a lot of very similar
it's very,
poses.
and it's very technical.
But then it's like, since your hand is here, it's now a different position.
yes,
We might be doing
since
this.
you're doing this, now it's a different position. And then, like, if I cover one eye while I do it, it's a different position. So
And of course, given those descriptions from before, with the passage of time and modernization, people, of course, come up with their own variations of the terms, like the Eiffel Tower or the helicopter. And the definition of what these positions are can be radically different depending on who you're talking to.
language evolves based on usage and whatever works, right? As long as you get to convey what you're trying to do, then you go for
Yeah,
it.
so like Noel mentions, it's like Twister. If you mean
The game,
party
not
game,
the movie or
then
Universal
yes.
Studios
If
attraction.
you mean the position, then I'll have to ask: is it Twister using the mouth or Twister using something else? Because those are two. Yes. Now,
Kenny's like, it sounds like movie titles. Right?
now it's also interesting how when you do look at material regarding this, um, they do focus on the body position, but they don't take into account the variety of the certain details. For example, men, when they are in a state of arousal, do become aroused in different
Positions.
directions.
Yeah, okay, yeah.
You have those who are, very uplifting. You are those who are downtrodden but impressive. And then you have those who are like they're saying, turn to the left or turn to the right. And you don't take these into account when
And-
you're talking about the positions.
and point to the one you like best.
And these differences do matter because certain positions do work better with certain angles.
Yeah, and for anyone who's had the opportunity to have more than one sexual partner, then you will know that not all parts are the same. Things align differently,
And not all expectations are the same.
and then there's also the fundamental challenge of height, which is like I understand there are a lot of people when they're dating look for people of a certain height range, whether it is that both of you are similar or maybe you
Mhm.
prefer shorter or taller, because you're also very used to maneuvering in that manner. And then as a short person, I know that it can be difficult depending on the height of the other person. Just to stress, Toby and I are very different heights. So it 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 adds a layer of difficulty.
Which also means there is always the need to understand that when you do engage in coitus, when you do finally make love to your partners, when you do have sex, um, you can't just dive into it expecting that it will happen as perfectly as pornography shows.
See, I knew we're gonna go eventually to pornography, and
Mm.
I will always stress that pornography sets very unrealistic expectations of sex, because this is literally we're talking about professionals who do this for a living.
And in lack of a better word, stage the event.
Yes,
I remember. Oh, we lose connection.
I don't know. Is everybody still okay? Please,
Monitor.
please
Okay,
give us
it
a
seems to be
6 if you're still there. Later, I'll ask for a
Yeah,
9.
there. Ah, no, it's still frozen. Ew, why is my face frozen that way? Okay, there. That's my. Oh, we were disconnected. So yeah, we're back.
Okay, I think we're back.
so
We wiggled on Facebook.
So like there was that time where I was with someone and the person complained and was like, bitang konti. And I'm like, I'm sorry, I didn't prepare. And
I didn't prepare.
because the person was expecting
Waterworks.
gallons.
Yeah.
And I was like, I'm sorry I didn't prepare, but we can have a round two. but
Toby and I have this conversation at the end, and like, oh, I think you should drink water. I think you need to hydrate.
and then there is also the fact that positions, just because they've worked with someone doesn't mean they'll work with everyone else you'll be with. Um, I've had instances in the past wherein I find myself having to guide the person to find that right angle while okay, maybe try bending a bit there, that works.
Yeah, I think when you're more experienced and comfortable with such intimate relations, sex does not sound like porn. It's a lot of Not there, not there. A bit more, a bit more, a bit. Yes. Okay, okay, okay. We're good. We're good.
Noel mentions drink pineapple juice. Yes, but that assumes you are doing something with someone you are willing to be that intimate with.
Yes,
Because that has a dangerous.
it's like, does the condom have flavor?
Because that has a dangerous level of exposure that you might have to consider if you are really engaging in that.
Yeah.
Unless
Unless you're on prep or something.
or like in my younger years, we only taste our own.
Chicken away.
Aina mentions this is not a good time to be eating cronuts. Choking hazard.
At least you're not eating polvoron.
Mm.
That would be a double choking hazard.
Or cucumbers. That was so well timed. Okay, so when we talk about positions, I think it would be good to try to explore the gamut of positions.
Well, it's like position, and I know also like it was a discussion of roles. If we
Yeah.
go back to the original
But
request,
I think we should start first with the solitary possibilities, and then we expand to
really, how
Yes.
many solitary Okay, I have not done that much experimentation alone.
So when it comes to solitary positions, so the standard is you basically lie or sit in that comfortable position and you get yourself off.
We're referring to guys, I
And
think,
the
mostly.
guys or girls, and
Okay.
there's no wrong way to do it unless you're not happy with how you're doing it.
If you're hurting
Then that's
yourself,
the only way.
then that's
it's the wrong way.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Now, beyond that basic level, you then have a few other options that people can do alone. And that is whether you're doing it alone or with tools.
With friends, no,
Um,
with enhancements.
Yeah. And when we talk about
Accoutrement.
enhancements, you have to consider that there's also the possibility that the enhancements can be passive or active.
And it is not one size fits all.
Yes.
I know, like, I got very excited the first time we went to an adult store and like, ooh, I want to buy the thing, and then wow, this looks really impressive, and then I buy the thing, and then I get home, and then we take it out, and oh shit, that's not going in me. It's like that is way too big. We did not think this through. So yeah, it is not one size fits all. Then work with don't go overly excited, aggressive, and I am bewildered at these modern times where you can get such tools and enhancements
Mhm.
on the likes of Lazada. Like I could be buying almond flour
Mhm.
for my bread and something for the bedroom,
Yes.
and it's all in the same location.
Just make sure that when you do purchase, you pay attention if other members of the family, if you're living with them, also purchased. Because the last thing you want is the package arriving and your dad going, "Kanina to," and you know what he's holding. So when it comes to solo positions, things to consider include um, be aware of how weight plays into the entire role of dealing with things on your own. So whether that means finding a comfortable position on your belly, on your knees, whether it's a sitting, squatting,
Long
kneeling
term on your
position.
knees is not viable as you age.
Yes. So be aware of that. Also consider the fact that as long as it's the body, fluids and other possible organics are involved.
Accoutrement also, no?
So always consider having a towel, maybe even cover the bed or the towel. If you're doing it in the restroom that allows you for easy cleanup, then make sure that you pay attention to slipping hazards.
Mm.
You do not want to slip, hurt yourself,
In an unusual position.
and call for family to help you while the toys are around you.
That would be awesome. I draw the line at plastic sheets. I mean, like,
It's like serial killer.
exactly.
levels.
It's a bit of a serial killer vibe. If your approach to keeping, your bed clean is a plastic sheet,
Mhm.
I am worried for you. I'm very worried. for
Jed
you.
asks, "What's the hazard?" Well, if you're like Jed, who's very capable of maintaining balance, then maybe there aren't any slipping hazards. But for the rest of us, um, you might want to at least pay attention to what the floor can be like when it's wet, what the floor can be like
When it's oily?
when it's oily, and what happens when you're more vigorous. Because it might seem fine and all, and you're happily there, but then when you're in the heat of the moment, the last thing you want is to lose your balance, bang your head on the wall, kick the curtain rod, and realize now that the family is trying to break the door open because they hear you in pain. So, not that it ever happened to me.
I will also like modern warning for the solo enthusiast is that Bluetooth technology is not your friend. So no matter how discreet you are, I think it's a good time to go analog to make sure you use a wired solution, and not one that is far away because you may yank it out and then it switches to external speakers. Bluetooth is always because there are so many horror stories of people whose phones were connected to the wrong
Speaker.
Bluetooth device,
Yes.
and then they decide to have some alone time and
They play porn. They don't understand why the audio is not coming out.
they raise the volume even higher. And then it makes for fun things.
So when it comes to solitary approaches, m- learn the positions that work for you. I dare even say, um, take the opportunity and observe your own body when you're doing other things. Doing the gardening and you've been squatting for an hour, do your knees hurt? Then maybe squatting isn't for you. Scrubbing the floor in the bathroom and you realize you cannot do it nonstop for like 30 minutes because it gets
It hurts to
tiring.
be on your knees.
Then maybe if you do something on your knees, you should pad it with a towel, or maybe you should consider using old clothes to act as the cushions. But don't be ashamed of the fact that, unlike in porn, they can be totally naked in the middle of the street and it works. That's not really how it works.
You ignore the fact that porn it has more cuts than an American martial arts movie.
Mhm.
So because every new angle is a cut, which means they could have stopped
Mhm.
the set, repositioned, do it again. It like all movie magic. It is meant to look like a continuous action when it's not. It's a whole day shoot.
Mhm.
So assume nothing. Assume nothing.
Now, moving beyond solitary, let's now talk about with partners.
Yes. Okay. We'll acknowledge earlier Noel's concern, confusion over I don't get sides. Okay, because in the traditional penetrative language of gay guys trying to figure out how to identify themselves in from a sexual position preference, we started with tops and bottoms, which
Mhm.
tie to Toby's analogy of you know givers and receivers, and pitchers and catchers. There was, but again, that was very limited to
Mhm.
penetrative terms.
Mhm.
So, sort of in like response to that, there were people like because either they did not want to do penetrative sex.
They're not comfortable
They're not
with it.
comfortable with, or maybe have never tried it and are not yet ready to try it,
Mhm.
but still enjoy intimate relations with other people.
Mhm.
Then they kind of, because we were going by directions of top and bottom, then therefore side became like the nomenclature for people who just do oral, essentially. I mean, like, so it's not a bad thing in itself, and nor should anyone ever feel pressured to get into any type of activity that they're not ready for or comfortable with.
So again, disclaimer: that is our understanding
Yeah.
of what side means. Whereas top and bottom are terminology rooted on the expectations of penetrative sex.
Mm-mm.
The concept of side, from our understanding, is you might still do everything that normally happens, but there is no penetration. So that includes everything from manual dexterity, oral pleasure,
Manual dexterity. Roll for initiative.
oral pleasure, and we'll even include,
Rubbing.
psych-
Vigorous rubbing.
yeah, frothing,
Yeah, yeah.
psychological, wordplay and power structures.
Psychological.
Yeah, those bad tomatoes. Those tomatoes are so bad, aren't they? Friends reference. So yeah, uh,
Wow. Toby's quoting friends.
I have to. I will get an episode for that.
Oh my god. We have to do a
But
friends
yes,
episode.
so that's our understanding of side. And I will admit, when I first heard about the term side, I was like, "What? They're calling that now?" Which is basically we want to make out. Why is there a term now for we just want to make out? Because in the past, that's what I understood it as. Do you want to make out or do you wanna right? And if the person says, I don't think I wanna, then we'll just make out. But now it's become oh, I'm a side, so I don't do that. And that was weird for me. That felt like a very strange um, way to define oneself.
But again, it's not identity, but it's just like bedroom preference. But at the same time, like I mean, it weirded me out too. I get that because we all come from that generation where I thought we're pretty clear about this.
Hey, Mrs. Tan.
There's top and there's bottom, and that kind of works out.
Mhm.
But we also have like a large generation of people who have grown up with the reality of the HIV scare,
Yes.
and it is most commonly associated with penetrative sex.
Yes.
And then as much as there's protection breaks, accidents happen, stealthing happens.
Mhm.
Then so I understand that there is a significant segment of the population that they still want to have intimacy, they still want to have intimate relations, but may never feel comfortable with penetrative sex.
And that's why the term side is
Yes.
the reference for that.
Yes.
Because admittedly, if that were the mindset behind it, I feel it still
Because
doesn't really work because you're still doing stuff which can fall under risk activity.
I know,
So
but
it's
but,
not-
but at the same time, ultimately, it seems unfair naman and very stuck in that dichotomy that you must be top or bottom, or like that you must define yourself around anal sex.
Well, for me, that was the thing. I never defined myself around anal sex. I just defined myself on what I wanted to do. And it wasn't even a what I only do, but a today I want to top, or today sure you can be the top, I'll bottom. So for the idea for someone to say I'm a side rather than I prefer to just side was strange for me.
But okay, but you just use top and bottom as verbs. But then
Mhm.
a lot of people also use it as nouns.
Exactly, and I never really saw that as something that should be supported because I felt that was always a much more destructive way to view things. It sets expectations and rules that are not following the same perspective.
But it's like arguing that bisexual needs we need to stop using bisexual to refer to straight acting gay men. But I mean, to some degree, it's hard to trump usage
Hmm.
that it's out there. Then that's the
Sadly.
understanding.
Sadly,
right?
that's true, and that's how language works. Language always works based on how it is used and not how it was originally designed or defined.
Yeah. So like, I mean, and this is not to say it's right either. It's just that it's out there.
So Jay here does share there are people who Kuka said define themselves by their preferred position. Exactly, and um, I think one thing which I've realized is that a lot of people really are hungry for self affirmation, and they do this by choosing to embrace whatever elements they are comfortable with as part of their identity.
Mm.
Um, but for me, the irony there is that sort of goes in many ways against the mindset of what Sogi is, which is to realize identity is not so narrowly defined, but is composed of so many factors. And if one were to even use that mindset towards it, sexual preference can be broken down in a Sogi like analogy of parang position, um, frequency, activity, and so on and so forth. Wherein, you can't just say you're a top. You might say you are a non-receptive, blah blah blah. But you get the idea.
Yeah.
Na it's such a loaded statement kasi to use it, and it feels very frustrating for me when people become very defensive about these terms, but then there aren't really the terms that seem appropriate as well.
Yeah. But at the same time, I mean, like uh, I'm not at a point where I'm going to correct everyone saying stop saying
that's
you're
true.
a top, stop saying you're a bottom.
That's
you
true.
bottom and you top. I mean, like
Mhm.
it's a war you're not going to win.
Mm.
I'm still going to fight the bisexual one. That's fair because that's but to tell people that they should stop using it as nouns and verbs. I mean, like, and I don't necessarily think using it as a noun or a verb immediately equates to associating with their identity, but it's conversational nomenclature in terms of like it's shorthand for saying what you like to do in bed.
True.
Right? So when a person says they're a side, I'm not that angry about it. Then I just understand, okay, you don't want to do penetrative stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And hence there's people who say that I only like side fun, which is what they mean.
Yes.
So I mean, like, it's not a perfect way, but then from a language perspective, I understand what they're trying to communicate,
Mhm.
and then I respect those choices. We're not going to suddenly surprise them now. Whoa, no, now you're a bottom. So I mean, things like that. So it's tricky. It's tricky either way, and it's hard to say that we want to disentangle it from identity. But yes, I recognize. But common language still uses them as nouns, right?
Mm. So Tristan here shares people use it as shortcuts, and they are indeed limiting.
Which is like the challenge of any system of categorization
Yes.
or stereotype.
Yeah. When someone says they're a geek, there are people who will try to define that a certain way or have set expectations for it, and then there will be those who say, well, as long as you enjoy something in this way, then you're a geek. It doesn't matter how much you know about it. It doesn't matter how deep you are in the lore or knowledge of it.
Yeah, and then so going back then it weird. I guess what does weird me out is when people sort of layer more things onto it. For example, so top and bottom typically refers to, at its most basic, your position in a penetrative situation.
Yes.
Right? There is one who's going in and one who is being entered.
Mhm.
But then there are others who will add on to that and like, oh, and because I'm a top, I don't do oral.
Yeah.
And I only receive. And then like, okay, so you're a top and you're a dick. So and that's like that gets frustrating.
Mhm.
And then I don't like that trying to layer on other things, because then you're trying to make it into an identity. It's too
Mhm.
much of a shorthand, and it's a shorthand that I don't agree with. That I don't think it's how the definition or the terminology is going to work out.
Mhm.
So, and it's weird, and that's why it's even stranger when you encounter on dating sites the quote unquote pure people, pure top or pure bottom. I mean, what the hell is that? It's like,
Mhm.
I mean, to be fair, these terms have been around for a long time. Like even when we were looking around on the sites because there were no apps, these things were being bandied about, and like, seriously, no, I don't get what you mean. Then like, no thanks.
So you have Kenny who mentions, I'm a top, but I only lay down and you do all the work.
You're a lazy top. Yeah, or the
reverse.
or
You
the
have
reverse.
bottoms who just lay down and expect you to.
Oh my god, what did you say, Laila D? Or sorry, my moments of sword speak, but because stuff like that, like, oh, Delilah Day, and then like, and oh my god, when I first heard that, and like, oh crap, then because initially I was definitely on the bottom side of things, and I don't want to be thought of that. And so I've always felt very obliged to reciprocate and be active,
Mhm.
and not just lie down. So, hey, maybe that had a positive effect because it scared the heck out of me because I didn't want a bad reputation in that sense.
Oh my gosh.
And the next one, I was like, I'm a bottom. Oh, that's nice. I'm a Capricorn. So yeah, so it's sort of along those lines, and because that we also don't want to say it is necessarily hard coded or part of your identity
Mhm.
because again these things change and it is nice when
Jed says that we call them starfish these days.
starfish. Why if
Na
you
nakahiga lang.
oh but
Maganda lang tignan.
okay I don't think starfish are nice to look at. I mean like maybe there are some very pretty starfish you see in National Geographic documentaries, but your average starfish on the beach is like this blackish brownish thing that's like so I don't know, not very.
Even Noel replies, starfish. Tristan shares, especially if people are looking for a quickie, they probably don't want to spend too much time parsing definitions.
Yeah,
That's true. And again, I guess, as we mentioned, using the terms is not a bad thing. Using the terms to define what you prefer is not a bad thing. But when the term is used as an identity, then it starts to become messy. It becomes, complicated. It becomes triggering. Um, so Kenny shares, I've never encountered people calling themselves power side pure vest. Well, I guess
to
you
be
haven't.
fair, no, because I think because the pure definition has always been. I mean, if we put top and bottom on a
Mhm.
spectrum, then they are assuming to be at the furthermost
Yes.
edges of top and bottom, which
And-
is ridiculous.
And admittedly, the terms power and pure, I felt were still of the generation for top and bottom definitions.
or very
and-
straight
And
terms.
side was not part of that range of terms. Side was a separate term because it didn't like these. It didn't
Mhm.
like the concepts of power tops, of etc. etc. Aina also shared something. I missed it.
Doesn't know what to do and penetrate when you're at the bottom. And then like, well, ultimately, I think when just because you are receiving doesn't mean you don't have hands, you don't
Mhm.
have lips. I mean, there's like you can you have tentacles
Yeah.
and wiggle them
So,
around.
so I guess what we want to say is that regardless of what role you're playing
for the night.
or what activity you're participating in terms of the sexual encounter, doing other stuff not specific to that penetrative act is always up to you. If you want to engage in kissing, if you want to engage in oral sex, if you want to have your fingers probe or be probed, if you want to explore erogenous zones, nibble, bite, whatever, that is between you and your partner. That is between, and I use partner as the person you're with.
Yeah.
That is between who you are with and what you are both comfortable with. Um, I think we both will never agree with the idea that if you're this, you're not allowed to do these other things
Yeah.
as a line. Because I know there are people who are like that. We're in, I'm the bottom, so why should I do black? And I'm like,
Oh yeah.
then
Or like the reverse, like since I'm top,
Yeah.
I don't have to
and
do oral.
that's your choice. That's not a rule. No one set that rule. Maybe someone set it when you were with that person in the past, and it's your choice now to maintain that rule if you still choose to see it as one.
Don't perpetuate the patriarchy. No,
Mhm.
but ultimately, I mean, like, whether you're just having fun or whether you're trying to convey intimacy or that sort of deeper bonding, um, the the only limits are consent. You know, I think that's it. If they just say no, then don't do that.
So Black Swana shares power side sounds like a damn apex. Isn't that just isn't that just a more vocal person while you're making up?
I don't know. I don't know what adding power to things means.
Well, power usually means you're dominating, you're domineering the event.
Yeah,
So
so
the
then-
power top would do it the way they want, even if the bottom supposedly is not.
Which never
comfortable.
sounds hot to me.
But then you have the power bottoms who basically
take charge.
take charge, and even if the top is asking to slow down or what, they don't care. They'll
But yeah, see,
Yeah.
see,
And-
on
and
the
that's-
whole the power definition is always like, you sound terrible
yeah,
in bed.
and that's the thing. If it was a consensual thing that you are both into,
I mean,
then
sure.
then those power plays are fine.
live the fantasy.
But then if it's one night stands and you're not really that close, you can't assume that just because you call yourself a power blank, then you have the right to act that way with the other person.
Power chicken.
Consent still becomes a factor, and it doesn't matter if you're already both naked. If the person reaches a point they're not comfortable with what's happening, you have to stop, and you have to, time out. You can't just say, wala, power top ako, so sorry ka na lang. That is literally,
I'm a dick. Sorry. Then don't sleep with these people. Okay, I'm amused by first. Kenny's like, you like this, huh? You like me cuddling you? Wow, so it's a power cuddler. And then, well, it's like,
as funny as that sounds, you realize that still is very much the lines of what rapists would say.
ooh, ouch, trigger. Okay.
Diba? But if you think about it, it sounds funny to joke about, but then if there is no consent, those are literally the same
it's
lines.
very scary for that. And then again, Noel is like power ups. Do they breathe fire suddenly? I'd be scared if it's the mushroom. Oh my god! Oh no! I think we should be scared if it's the star because he's going to start glowing. Okay. Oh man, my poor chicken. Oh,
So the point is, no matter what your positions, no matter what your roles, consent is key. And it's funny how many people would joke about BDSM, but they fail to realize BDSM
ooh.
literally paid attention.
It's
To the
super
fact that-
super complex power
And
dynamics.
there are super complex layers of security and safety to make sure that the consent is present in these dynamics.
Yeah.
People joke about having safe words. People joke about um, how in movies it's exaggerated to the point that the mistress has to check on the sub. But that's really how it is.
Yes.
You have to check on each other. You
Oh,
have
what
to
was-
double check if things are
What
fine.
was the show we watched? Bonding, I think, on Netflix.
Yeah, bonding.
That was a good show. I mean, not a great show, but then like in terms of media depiction of BDSM type activities, the second season, while not the most brilliant writing, had a lot of great lines
Yes.
discussing power dynamics in those things, and really a lot of the implied control is not with the dom, but it's really with the sub, because the sub sets the limits at the beginning.
Mm.
Like, these are the things I will not do, and these are what I will let you do to me. And then they must work within that structure. It's the whole liberation theory that
Mm.
more rules gives us the ability to be free. Freedom is not no rules, because no rules is chaos. Sorry. But yeah, that kind of a thing. Okay.
I do sometimes feel that the concepts of power blanks and the like were born from just simply not really knowing. Meaning,
Or it feels very heteronormative.
just to finish my
Sorry,
thought.
sorry.
So like you'll have people engaging in penetrative sex, but since they're not quite accustomed to how it's done in a more comfortable setting, then the partner is feeling pain, but then they still just want to do it. And then they're now thinking, okay, so I'm the person who, when I do it, I'm aggressive. And they start making it okay, so I'm a power top. Not realizing, hey, dude, if you just slow down, use more lube, take your time, it's not going to be that bad.
Mm-mm.
And it's that, the lack of really being more intimate, talking it out. And because literally a lot went through going through these things without really knowing, there was no manual.
Yeah, and then and I think we're back. So I was just saying, there's always that pressure in terms of sexual activity that you do kind of want, whether on a conscious level or not, you do want it to be like porn. You expect sex to always be great and always to be amazing. And when sex is not working for you, it feels shameful
Yes.
that you're not living up to media expectations. And therefore, a lot of people don't mention that things aren't working out.
They're afraid to say that something hurts. They're afraid to say that
It's not turning them on.
or
you know?
that's not the spot, because they feel the moment they do that, the night's ruined. The
Yeah,
moment
yeah,
they
yeah.
do that, they're saying something's wrong with them. The moment they do that, the other person will be turned off. And these are valid fears
Yeah, yeah.
because typically these are things happening with people you don't really know but have chosen to try stuff with. But, if you want to build a healthier relationship,
With
and
sex.
you want to explore different positions, then you must be willing to be that open. And I don't mean open in the physical sense of who's being the receiver, but I mean open in the sense of, just because you're top doesn't mean you'll be hard on cue.
Hmm.
So if you're going to be the one topping and the person is suddenly, in that point in that mood, do it, go in, and you're like, wait, I need more time. You have to state it. You have to, you have to be honest about it. You shouldn't feel bad about it. You should just accept that biology works that way. Um, if you're in that more bigger comfort zone, you might even ask how the person can help you get to that point. And it's that sort of communication that's present in intimacy when it's in a much more open mindset. It's not about performing, it's about sharing the moment.
Unless it's your job, then I guess it is about performing.
Yes.
I'm kidding. I will point out. I mean, not point out. I will share in the sense that, like, because even for us, like, I mean, Toby and I got together. We were no longer kids.
Mhm.
Definitely, I felt like I was pretty experienced, and I'm sure Toby also felt
Mhm.
he was pretty experienced. And then while we had good fun, but we also had some early like, wow, that was weird.
Mhm.
that did not work out at all, and there was that disappointment and annoyance and frustration with ourselves, and it also took us a while to get used to talking through it.
Even stuff as simple as, in my case, because prior to you, I had a number of girlfriends,
Mm.
and then even prior to those, I had a number of different boyfriends. But I was so used to using protection always,
Oh,
every single
hi.
time, right? And when you were opening up that you didn't feel comfortable with it, I was like, wait, am I really gonna do this now?
Okay, you've outed my sexual preference.
No, no,
But it's true. It's true.
But there was that need to adjust, and even that was a turning point that I had to cope with, and you helped me cope with, because I had my moments of is there something wrong with me? Why am I freaking out over this? I'm getting ganyan, and it's that sort of openness that you have to be willing to share with another person.
For clarity, I am within the context of my monogamous relationship. Then it is my preference
Mhm.
not to go that route. But if we play with others who are outside the relationship, then wear a
The raincoats rare stay on.
yeah. Then sorry, you don't get a free pass. My preferences do not extend that far to risk. Okay, so it's on the internet. So so yeah, so there is that. But it was like and it took a while. And I know Toby and I literally had to sit down and like uh and it was coming to an agreement. We just really need to talk about it, and we just really need to share more. And thus we started having nights that sounded like not there. Please. No, okay, stop. More lube. and this is how we sound. And this is how we sound.
And admittedly, the first few times there was a lot of, I'm doing it wrong again. And it was that sort of thing that you'll realize that you get accustomed to certain ways. You think you know how to do it because that's how you do it with other people. But then when you find someone else, you might realize that there are certain adjustments you have to do. There was a point in time, for example, that I got used to always doubling up, and that's because I was super scared of I've had a few tear-ins a few times in the
like,
past.
oh my god, you might get me pregnant. Oh no.
Yes, exactly, that type of scare. And yes, I've had a um, why is it a ring around it and not a condom anymore?
Incredible Hulk breakthrough.
So I've been used to doubling up to a certain point in time, and that has its repercussions to adjust from that.
Yeah, yeah. So there is that, and then like so um yeah. So the communication piece is just really really important, and in our very liberal
Mhm.
life, then oh wow, baton is like not clear, doubling up, literally trying to double up your protection.
But make sure you lube in between.
So like you might lose one or the other. No.
Yeah, that does happen.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Okay, okay. Then
Which is why I grind. I mean, anyway.
that is also my preference.
Chicken! Where are you, chicken?
We're not even drinking. Okay, so um,
Yes, it's more prone to tearing up. But then if you lube to make sure that they don't tear, it's more prone that one goes wee all the way home.
so no, it's not something we recommend. No, no, no.
And,
It was a
um,
misunderstanding due to
sorry,
ignorance.
it was something I was doing because I was with women. And I was more afraid of my swimmers finding their way and turning me into Ross.
Ooh, Friends reference again, but the weird one. Uh, I don't know. Technically, I'm not supposed to drink yet because I had my COVID shot
Hmm.
last Saturday. So only one doctor has ever advised me I'm not supposed to drink for a week. And like, oh, that's easy. I barely drink anymore.
And
But-
yes, just to share Noel's statement, don't double up. It's not a good practice. It was really a stupid move on my part in my younger years.
Ooh, and they mentioned take the test. Thought of that. To be fair, I have learned more about like proper condom use from getting tested for STDs,
Mhm.
especially through take the test.
Mhm.
Um,
Like there
more than
is a
anything
wrong
else.
way to roll it down.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And then like
There are people who get surprised that
And then-
what there's a wrong way.
yeah,
There is.
you're supposed to pinch the tip and not just make it sagad.
Yes,
you know, and
because
all
if you
these
have
things.
the tip not pinched, then you create this pocket of air that can pop and it ruins the condom.
So yeah, thank you, proper HIV counselors who actually counsel before the session. Thank you. But and it's consistent. Like whether we've gotten a take the test on like Puerto Galera Beach or at Obar,
Yes.
it's like I've gotten a lot of good information. So I cannot I cannot fault them for that. Thank you so much.
So some other position tips. Mind your weight. And I say
Ooh.
this with
all the love.
I say this with all the love because there are people who think if you're the person who will carry the other person, that's your problem. And that's crap. Just because the other person will be, whether they're sitting on you or whether they're leaning on top of you or whether they're supporting your weight, um, don't just put all the weight down on that. Learn to hold your weight on your legs or adjust it to your arms or shoulders. Mind your weight. And by doing so, not only do you make it more comfortable for both of you, not only do you accidentally choke your partner, um, not only do you avoid risking a penile fracture, you also then allow yourselves a bit more flexibility and you might find new ways you can have fun.
Oh, of course, Jed, like sharing, prep could be as good as condoms, but not every day. Take it 5 days before.
Mhm.
Although I agree with Noel in the sense that, the best combination is prep plus condoms
Yeah,
or
because
protection.
prep is for specific STDs.
It's for
but
HIV,
not, yeah,
but not necessarily. It should be for all STDs.
and those other
condoms-
STDs are still from contact. And,
Condoms keep you safe for
Yeah.
most of that. That's why we're still like,
Mhm.
we're definitely in the classic no glove, no love team.
Mhm.
Oh man, I used to have a shirt that said that. Did we have a shirt that said no glove, no love? I think it was from
No,
someone else.
that was
Okay,
you. That was
okay, yeah, from a pride period. Okay, so and then was this? Be honest. Also, when the position no longer works, and it doesn't have to be pain because of penetration. In our increasing age, we have knee breaks.
Old man moment. Old
It's like,
man.
oh man, I can't stay on my knees. I need to lie down for a moment. Wait, wait. So,
So Aina was mentioning here, when guys tell me they want that, I was like, how? And you're gonna die again. That's the thing. You have to find how to maneuver your weight in a way that's comfortable for you as well. So if you like, for example, practice in a squatting position in your bed, for example, then you have to already that early find, okay, how many pillows do I need to support me on the side? If I lean, how what is the better way to do this? Which leg gets tired first? So maybe that position is the one you'll
yeah, like
favor
you have a
early
dominant
on,
leg.
and then adjust.
Are you gonna do
It's-
the
Yeah,
dance?
it's weird, but it honestly is something you have to pay attention to because yes, cramps happen. Legs do fall asleep,
Knees just give up.
and it's embarrassing, but it can be funny and endearing when you go, wait, I can't feel my leg. Pins and needles, pins and needles, pins and needles.
Fall asleep.
Stretch my foot, stretch my foot.
Okay, wait, that's a little too much sharing, but yeah, we had like, I'm gonna cramp, stretch my foot, massage my leg. So we super, yeah, we're this is the level of comfort that Toby and I are at, and we just roll with it. And then I feel like anybody we risk inviting over must be prepared for like we're very communicative, it may not work for you, but that's how we work. So oh my god, what I was gonna say, oh, and then I will admit that, oh my god, exercise is amazing. As someone who only started doing proper exercise, well, not proper, but actual, increased physical activity in the last 2 years. Um, uh, Over time, there have been coincidental benefits from all my different body weight exercises versus things I am now capable of doing in the bedroom. So, yay. So, I mean, like, admittedly, if you do want to open up more possibilities, you want to experiment more, um, uh, we must not discount that sex is a physical activity.
Yes.
And a certain degree of physical health will be required to do more and to experiment more. And so that's why um, if it's for your own sanity, go for it. And then, like, if you really want to go through the Kamasutra and try all these positions, make sure that the muscles those positions require are sufficiently strong to handle said positions.
and sufficiently stretched.
Oh my gosh. And hydrate, guys. Hydrate. I cannot. Cramps are mostly caused,
By dehydration.
by dehydration and then strain. So, gag. Okay.
So if you actually prepare for it, then you're both hydrating and preparing.
That sounded really bad. Okay. There's something wrong there. Chicken is upset.
So Black Swana asks, like a geeky threesome. Oh, that's different because you have to prepare your brain as well.
Oh, yeah. Because we've hashtagged that. That's our hashtag. So
What else? When it comes to positions, pillows are your friend. And of course, we're focusing on positions in bed. Pillows,
you always want more.
well, I did want a... never mind.
Toby's
Never-
the type that wherever the department store, his incidental purchase idea is like, should we get more pillows? And like, I think we have enough pillows, but he'll always suggest, do we want more pillows?
Well, height difference is a factor.
Height difference is a factor.
And pillows help prop things around.
Basically, a shorter person on his knees does not align with a taller person on his knees. That's how life is. So yeah, pillows can help.
Jed asks, how about those exotic styled positions?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if you were here in time for like when we were talking about things like the Kamasutra, the joy of sex, the joy
Now,
of gay
the
sex.
fun thing about the exotic positions is they can really be fun. Some of them might even seem contrary to common sense, but then when you try it, this actually works. Like you have those weird scissor positions where you're both looking down at the bed, but there's penetration.
Like, yeah.
And it's like, okay, so the angle's different. Oh, it hits different spots. And there are those moments.
I feel like trying to follow a pillow book, to borrow the old term, feels more like you're following a recipe book
Mm.
and like, ooh, what are we going to try to bake today? And you must follow the instructions precisely, and your results may still vary.
Rehan, I'm not sure what you
I
mean by
don't know what
magnifying
Rehan
crumble. I'm assuming that's a certain position. Noel asks, does sex on a plane count as an exotic position? Only if you think flight is an exotic experience. Um, so I think it was always an opportunistic option to do it in the plane. Um,
And it's also the thrill of doing it in public,
yeah, I've
I
only done it
guess.
once.
I've never.
I was much younger then.
I did not. We did not have this conversation yet.
Yeah, she was much older.
Oh my god. Okay.
I think I was used, but I was young and I was like, sure.
Tristan says sometimes positions are influenced by not wanting to dirty the sheets. This is true. I have felt guilty in the sense
Very
of
true.
sometimes when we do invite people over to play, what's this? That sometimes I don't want to be hassled with penetrative with these people, and then like we'll just do side fun and just do that because
Mhm.
I don't want as much as like I can be versatile and I don't mind, but it doesn't mean I want to let everybody in,
Mhm.
and there have been people that when everything comes off, I take one look and just like my very first toy, I'm like, oh no, that is not going in me. No, 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 no. And so sorry.
Black Swan mentions, oh my god, is that the joke about gay men owning too many pillows? In some ways, yes. But in some ways, it's also because, there is that joke of gay men being alone. So having more pillows means you feel like you're never alone.
Or it's stereotypes and femininity, and
Mhm.
I mean, there are different angles to that joke, and then, but yeah. So keeping clean, it was just. I guess it's your level of comfort with the person will determine how far you're willing to go, and then it may boil down to practical considerations
Mhm.
like, do I want to clean up after this person with kind of a mess we're gonna make, and these things.
Now, in as much as positions is normally talked about as how do we do it because the book gives this interesting illustration. You might want to also open yourself to exploring positions only because it actually literally gives you a different perspective on how things are unfolding.
Variety is the spice of life.
Something as simple as simply having your partner this time be the one above you has its effects. It doesn't necessarily mean it's a power play. It doesn't necessarily mean you're in a more subordinate position or anything. But it might give you a different perspective on how the person looks, on how the person relates with you, on what parts of your body can be interacted with. Because if you're always, let's say, in missionary position, then when you try it in a different position, you might discover, so that's what it feels like to be kissed on your nape, or that's what it feels like when hands are running down your sides. And these are a lot of things that you might not even consider interesting, but then you might realize you like. I remember the first time I was with someone who um, started kissing my elbow,
Oh, that's
and that
interesting.
was weird at
Yeah.
first. Parang, what are you?
That's atypical.
But then when I just stopped thinking and let it happen, and parang why would this be interesting? Then that's when I felt, oh, okay, that's interesting. And it's that when you try something new, your initial defensiveness is, what are you doing? This is weird. And if you're not interested, then that's fine. You can stop it there. But then if you do think it's something you want to explore, then your first hurdle is your self consciousness. Your first hurdle is to stop thinking of how this is so not what you normally do, and it's to start wondering, why does this feel interesting? I've had partners before um, who would always talk about how it's ticklish,
Mm.
and then later on they realized it was ticklish because they were tense the whole time when it was
Mm.
happening. But when they loosened up,
It can be
it's
erogenous.
it's not ticklish.
It is very
Yeah.
sensitive.
It was just
Yeah.
I was tense. And then there were also those who, um, those accidental moments. Like there was a time I was with someone who, we were just not jiving. It was just not
Okay.
clicking. And then he rested his head, and that's when ooh, that's nice because his stubble was all rubbing the right spots. And it's like, don't stop that.
Or the thing about like the sometimes even just shifting weight around
Yes.
and like feeling pressure on certain points.
Like
then-
like having a leg trapped, or like having an arm pinned down. It's not necessarily you're now into BDSM,
yeah.
but just that shift in how you're used to something can open up this new experience and how it feels.
So exploration, experimentation is
Mm.
definitely fun, and that's why we say like, oh my god, this is why it's not part of your identity,
Yes,
because there's like a near infinite possibility of things to try, and there are so many things you haven't tried,
Mm-mm.
and admittedly, a lot of us fall into the trap of
This
doing
is what
the same
I do,
thing.
and
Yes,
this is all I do.
making it routine. When in fact, it's a lot more fun to experiment.
Mhm.
And I mean, like even just for us over the oh my god, the 12 years that Toby and I have generally been together, is that the things we started doing in the beginning are very different from what we do
Mhm.
now, and we're continuing to discover new things. Although sometimes it's very surprising.
Hey, are we talking about that one?
Yes, we're talking about that one. Surprise Lazada purchases.
I just want to add though.
I want to stress that consent is important.
I got consent.
No, you did not. Your literal question was, I bought something, promised to use it. He wouldn't tell me what it was. I know. No, but in all jest, we're just teasing. But it was fun.
What's this? So there was the don't lock yourself up in what you want to do. At the same time, don't um, don't define yourself based on how it worked with one person.
Yes.
So you might say, I only do this, and then after having heard from us, then maybe I should be open and try this and that. And then as you try it with someone and it goes great, you might suddenly fall into the trap of saying, so now I'm into this and this is me. That's not still the case because maybe it just worked out well with that person, and with someone else it might not work. So don't make the verb define the noun.
Yeah, I mean, I can super from an example perspective. So I was in a largely monogamous 7+ year relationship. And
Underwater.
okay, and then when I got together with Toby, there was definitely what I can only call a learning curve, because of course I was so used to how it worked with my ex, and then it was different with Toby. And and understanding that difference and figuring that out was a process, and that's something that we had to work on together. And thus even just the same position but with a different person can be totally different. So
Mhm.
don't set improper expectations, and then and like anything in life, it will take work, and it will take practice, and it will take some figuring out, and funny efforts to give directions, and up, down, down, up, left, right, BA. No, so
We're not Lego pieces, so we don't all just fit in the pieces the same way instantly.
hey, and even Lego has diversity. There are children Lego, there are dwarf Legos, there are peg leg Legos.
So in many ways, our episode on positions isn't really just about sexual positions. It's about the positions you play in a relationship. It's about
Metaphor.
apat na kilala, metaphor. So, I'm so sorry. As I was saying, it's about the
So
position.
painful. 12 years of this.
You have to realize that everything you will want to explore and choose to do, um, has those levels and has those grades. There's the how do you want to feel about it? How do you want to experience it? Who are you doing it with? What are your expectations when doing it with that person? Um, and all these do boil down to finding what works for you and who you're with at that moment. And in the end, it goes back to what works for you. Because um, no matter how much it's fun to do it with others, deep down, a lot of this boils down to making sure it works for you first. And I don't think it would be healthy to ever embrace the idea that dun siya masaya, so yun ang gagawin ko rin.
Oof.
So
Oof, no.
don't fall into the trap of thinking that when it comes to positions, being a giver is a good thing. It's only a good thing if being a giver is precisely what gets you off.
Yeah, it's like I always get a little annoyed at times when you have people who complain na parang, I met this guy, but pareho kaming bottom. And then again, it's not your identity.
Mm.
If you really like this person, then maybe both of you can experiment with different things and
Mm.
see what works. But it's not set in stone. It's like it's never gonna happen again. So, um, yeah, don't limit yourself that way. And it's a lot of give and take. And ultimately, I think it's also why I
I'm
mean,
so sorry. Black Swana didn't catch the pun.
it wasn't worth catching. So, but I will say that was this. It's also why we're definitely at the age where we're very tired of even considering like one night stands because you don't have the advantage of the comfort, the ability to talk through things.
Yeah,
You
that's
know,
true. One night stands tend to be
high performance moments.
high performance, awkward, and in many ways, very artificial.
Yes.
Because a majority of the time, in a one night stand, it's either one person just got what he wanted and the other person didn't know what happened. Or or they both believe they had such a fantastic time, but they were both faking how much they enjoyed it.
Yeah.
And that's because it's about the performance. It's about giving a good impression.
Yeah.
We're
It's one hell of a handshake.
yeah, we're bored with that. It's I think part in terms of us, part of what has worked for us is that we've already begun to understand that there are differences in how people approach sex. And so when we open ourselves up to sharing intimacy with others, we know where we go, we know how much we are willing to share, and we're willing to communicate it with those people.
But we also expect a certain degree of communication and sharing as
Yes.
well. And there have really been there have really been postmortems after, where at least me and Toby, and it's like, nope,
Not gonna happen.
that wasn't fun. That was not fun enough, And so and that's why
And it's not a judgment on the person's performance. It's just it's about clicking.
it's more about the fundamentals, like
in lack of a better word, it's the chemistry.
yeah,
If
the
the sexual
chemistry.
chemistry does not jive, then you can't force you can't force yeah. I was about to give a metaphor again but never mind. You're gonna get mad.
You weren't going to give a metaphor. You were going to give a pun. There's a difference. Metaphors are meaningful contributions to this conversation.
My puns are meaningful
Puns are
contributions.
scrawny contributions. That is why I initially thought you were a Chandler because of bad jokes. Apparently, Star Justice. We're gonna talk about it. Are we back? Are we back? Are we back? I think we're back. Okay, let's discuss.
So one of the recent realizations we have discussed this pandemic, um, And it all started with the reunion show.
Yes. We watched the Friends reunion because I was like, oh, let's just do. I mean, like, I can't say.
Actually, it was more, oh, there's a Friends reunion show, blah, 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 blah.
Yeah, and then I don't even consider myself like a
Yeah.
diehard. I treat Friends like Archie comics.
Mhm.
Like, I watched a bunch of them before. I can't say I'm a super dedicated fan. It's like Archie. It's like almost everybody has read Archie, but then not everybody's a fan.
And
but
me,
it's like,
on social media, seeing other friends going, oh my God, reunion show, blah, 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 blah. I'm like, okay, so Friends is that old. And, I remember Matt LeBlanc, he's the cute guy. And that's pretty much it. So we start watching the episodes because Rocky then learns after we watch the reunion show.
that Toby had not watched Friends. Like, he had only seen random episodes.
Yeah, and these were like literally you catch it because someone.
But to be fair, we lived in that broadcast era where catching a show meant checking the guide. What time is it on TV5 every week? I think it was 8, and then sitting down to watch.
Yeah, and I believe at this era I was more in the world of X-Files and Millennium than I was of
They're
Friends.
not mutually
No,
exclusive.
but you get what I mean, right? While people were like enjoying comedy and stuff, I was super into the dark, and so we watch.
So we've been watching.
And
Friends.
as we watch, there is suddenly me realizing that there were just so many instances where I look at Rocket and going, really? That's in the show? And the parallels to stuff I've gone through. Or
It's-
to
or
moments.
traits, or moments, or
It's just
behaviors.
hilarious. And we realized that will have to be an episode of its own.
And I think we'll have like a jam board up.
Yeah, I
And
think,
then
I
we'll,
think we
like,
should tally.
We'll tally.
I think we'll need the help of people like Noel, who's really into the show.
And Nico
To help-
watch that.
to help
again, too.
identify these things.
Yeah,
And then I
yeah.
can like, okay, this happened to me and ganyan. And then we'll see which friend I end up being. And yeah, it's funny because Rocky always feels
Because my initial joke was from a very quick thing. I'm obviously a Monica. I concede. I'm mostly a Monica. Therefore, wouldn't it be fun if Toby's a Chandler? He's already a dad joke person. Then we end up together, right? So that works out. But then more and more, there's like then it started to wobble between, okay, maybe Toby's not just a Chandler, to now it's starting to feel like, is Toby the show? So it's a concern. So, but yeah, we'll do a different episode of that. That's a whole different position.
Mhm.
I guess we should wrap this one up though, because we're already
Yes.
pushing 2 hours.
yes. We have definitely been in this position long enough that our butts are starting to hurt. And just as we mentioned in this show, you have to change your position every now and then for comfort. So,
What are our last thoughts on
last
this
thoughts
subject?
on positions.
Positions, roles, whatever you want to call them. Also, I mean, they're different, but then they're all part of the same conversation. With pumping scenes.
I think my last thoughts on positions would be you'll just really also have to open your mind, open yourself to the fact that there is a temporal nature to it. And it even can be as quick as suddenly wanting to change positions while you're doing it. Because again, this all boils down to there's that porny mindset of I play this role and so this is what I do. But thankfully, porn is slowly trying to adapt now. There are some porn that is more open minded.
I think
There are
because
porn that are showing
because
flip
there's
flopping and
because
all
there's
this
so
and
much
that.
amateur porn also.
So it's starting to represent
then
as well.
it looks a lot more normal
Yes.
versus professional porn versus soft focus lighting porn.
But I guess what I'm trying to say is, if you come to a point where you're with someone who you really feel close and intimate with, then you'll realize that the shifting of positions can be those moments where you have cuddling moments, where you rest your backs and lie on your sides for a moment before you indulge
when you
again.
first stay the night.
Where you have a break to get a glass of water before you continue. So, all this is part and parcel of breaking the mistake of thinking that when you look at sex as just who's doing what position, then you're only seeing the performance level of it.
Yeah, it's not a baseball team.
But then if you look at sex as a chance to be intimate with another person and the two of you or more sharing what works and guiding each other to get those spots hit, then you'll realize that what you always thought of as interruptions or accidents actually are still just part of it.
Yeah, and then like, oh my god, explore. I mean, like, I think that's what people don't. When you get focused on the positions and like, sort of, you're gonna do this or that.
Mhm.
But sometimes you forget about the person in themselves. That every
Yes.
person is different. They're wired differently. Enjoy the moment. Take some time. Explore every inch of that person. See where they respond, where they don't respond, where they laugh, where they shiver, where they whatever. I mean, I find that that's what I've learned to enjoy a lot more. And um and finding those trigger points and like, ooh, okay, we found something and let's play with that, you know? And if you only do the same thing every time, then you're not going to discover these things. Then it's not as fully give and take as it could be. And I think if a lot more people were less about the checklist of things you're gonna do
Mhm.
and more about let's find out what we can do together, then I think there would be a lot more happy people.
And regardless of whatever you do choose to embrace or where you feel you're safer staying in for now, always have protection ready.
Mm.
Doesn't matter if you're the top, you're the bottom, you're the
Oh
side.
yeah,
I don't care.
let's take a moment for that, ladies and
Be
gentlemen.
be be proactive enough to always have protection. I'd even say protection and lube. It doesn't matter if you're not planning anything penetrative or what. Better that you have whatever tools you need when suddenly you feel you're ready to do
Be a
something
Boy
more
Scout.
than to only worry about it that moment, then spend the next 30 minutes running around looking for the closest convenience store that might still stock it, and then finding the courage to buy it pa if you're not used to it, and then running back and then realizing tinatamad ka na because you're tired from all the running. So,
Yeah, I hate it. I hate it when I sometimes see it on social media
Mhm.
when they'll be joking. Well, not joking. Like sometimes there are people literally asking, like the cloud, asking people like, so, who should bring the lube, the
Mhm.
top or the bottom? And like, both. I mean, like, if you think you're gonna do it, then both of you should be ready for it. You know, don't there's no expectation of one or the other. But if you want to make sure that you're protected, bring your own protection
Yeah.
and accoutrement.
and
For your
and I
benefit.
know a lot of that is because people are still afraid to buy, and that's a spin-off of being in a Catholic/Christian country,
Yeah,
living with parents who basically were not growing up in an environment where they can openly talk about sex. But
I hope Lazada has help now because there's a lot of online shopping
and
going
even
on.
beyond Lazada, there are people who are you can contact to get supplies.
Oh yes, we have friends who participate
Yes.
in those efforts to like to just give away. They just give away condoms. I mean, like
If
they-
you're near one of them and you contact them, they will give you
yeah, I forgot the
There was a term,
specific
yeah.
name of the network, but then it's a health effort also to get protection in the hands of people who need it.
if you break past that barrier and you become more comfortable with carrying protection and lube, you realize that you then open yourself to the possibility that if it goes so well and you decide to go for round two or more, you're good.
Oh, and minor note for if you do reach out to those people who are in that volunteer network where they try to
You
distribute,
take the test and hatch.
who try to distribute condoms and stuff. There's like geolocation and everything. please don't assume that because you are getting condoms from them, they want to sleep with you. That is very rude to the volunteers.
Yes.
A lot of them are really just health volunteers who are just trying to give back to the community. So stop trying to sleep with the condom distributors. We have friends. I know we have at least one friend who participates in this
Yes.
network, and it's his biggest complaint. It's like he has all these people who think it's going to lead to a hookup, and no,
Yeah.
you're just gonna get condoms. Okay.
But I hope that we have spent nearly 2 hours talking about this, and I hope that you whether you're one of the current ones who watching live or you're a later one who chanced upon this video, found it odd that two guys in pink shirts are going to talk about positions
Salmon.
and kept clicking a chicken. Um, we hope that you will at least leave, having seen this episode, feeling a bit more confident, feeling a bit more self assured, feeling a bit more normal. Because it's very easy to feel not normal when you feel you don't know who you can talk to about these things. Um, so if we at least left you in a better position than when you started,
Oh.
we will be very happy.
Oh damn! He went there.
Thank you for watching.
I'd say I'm disappointed, but I'm not. It's like par for the course.
Well, that's 18 holes.
Okay, par is different. Par is the number of.
I know
strokes
golf.
per
My
hole.
dad used to play golf.
But again, but you can't just throw that in as another golf term.
No, but we can like try to cover 18 holes. That
No.
ends our episode.
No, you wouldn't. It's too many people. Tiring. Too old for that. Too old for that. Okay. So, wrapping up. For questions or suggestions for future episodes, fill up the Google form at bit.ly Baduy Pride Ideas. Thank you, Kenny, for suggesting this topic. We are blaming you for this. I think the way you captioned it originally was like bunk buddies and like leading to talking about the sexual
Yeah, which
position
was either
preferences.
very military or very school. So we kind of decided not to use that.
Yeah. So and we weren't quite fine on the topic. Like, how do we make this topic sound PG but clearly convey what we're going to talk about? And we ended up with this. So thanks for the suggestion. You can follow us on Twitter, Altobi No Shade, RG Suniko.
You could also check out our blog, baduypride.com, for all the previous episodes and stuff about us.
So feel free to continue the conversation in the comments below, and let us know what are your thoughts and like what I guess what position do you think you'll be taking? Do not explain in detail. So then be sure to subscribe for notifications, whether on Facebook or YouTube, so you don't miss our next live stream. Once again, I'm Rocky.
And I'm Toby.
And this is
Baduy Pride.
Kenny, the topic really came from you. I have proof. Okay.
Keep exploring.
Keep exploring and changing positions.